back again, and now it's time to transfer our wine from the bucket to the carboy, add the oak if necessary. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the lid, and we're going to grab our hydrometer out of our sanitized bucket, and we're just going to go ahead and put it right in there. And when I do, I'm going to give it a gentle twist like that, just to try to make sure to remove all air bubbles from the side of the hydrometer to give us an accurate reading. We should be in the range of 1030 to 1050 at this point, and by looking at the hydrometer, we're at 1035, so we're right in the range we want to be. Now we're going to take the hydrometer out and put that aside. Now, Mosties added an additional step to their winemaking where you would add yeast nutrient. The purpose of the yeast nutrient is just to make sure that your yeast have plenty of food to remain strong and viable to complete the fermentation. This is a precautionary step. Like I said, Mosty just recently added it. They changed the instructions before they got the yeast nutrient into all of the ad packs. Therefore, if your kit doesn't contain the yeast nutrient, don't worry about it. Like I said, we haven't had any problems. Or on the other hand, if you have some yeast nutrient on hand, dissolve a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast nutrient in some warm water. Otherwise, if you have the yeast nutrient that comes with the kit, dissolve that in warm water as well. Stir it up, add it to the must. Okay, now that we've added the yeast nutrient, we're going to stir the wine before we transfer it. This is something you do only with a Mosty kit, and once again, related back to the yeast nutrient, there's a lot of nutrient in the bottom of the sediment, which is dead yeast cells. And you can see now that I've stirred it up, in fact, it's gotten awful foamy to show that the fermentation is still alive and well. Now that we've stirred it up, we're going to transfer everything to the glass carboy. And now that we've stirred up the wine, we're going to add the oak before we transfer. And with most wine kits, the oak will go in the primary and become part of the sediment. With Mosty Mondiale and some of the higher wine kits, you'll actually put the oak in the secondary. Some of the wine kits you'll put oak in the primary and in the secondary. So I'm going to make me just a simple paper funnel. We have found that this works better than a traditional funnel because the oak chips can be somewhat large and gets clogged in the funnel. Now this particular wine only has 1 bag of oak. You will find that some of the Mosty kits contain as many as 5 bags of oak. Sometimes different, sometimes light toast, medium toast, heavy toast. Sometimes a combination of the 3 or the 4, just kind of depends on what they feel gives the best flavor to the wine. Now we're going to take our tubing and we're going to attach it to the spigot. This is why I like the spigot. Makes the transferring first time easily. And we're going to capture the first part of the wine in a wine bottle. And the reason is that with a Mosty kit, we're going to transfer all of the liquid. And since the fermentation is still active, if we filled this entirely with 6 gallons, we would run the risk of overflow. And by saving this, we have something to top off later. We have a saying here at the Winemaker's Toy Store, we don't like to waste wine. This is an example. Another thing about Mosty, when you do the first racking, is you want to do a splash racking to add oxygen to the wine. This helps the yeast to be strong to finish the fermentation, as we discussed previously. So you can see how I'm holding the tubing up against the side of the carboy to allow plenty of oxygen to get into the wine. It's a good time to also point out that in winemaking, a little oxygen is good, a lot of oxygen is bad. We don't want to keep all oxygen away from the wine, just most of the wine. Most of the oxygen, I'm sorry. All right. So now we've almost transferred all the liquid. So now we're going to tilt the bucket because we want to get everything out of the bucket. And you can see it filling up, and you can see the foam on top because we're still fermenting. At this point in time, the bucket's is fairly light, so you can actually pick it up to help facilitate the transfer. And you can hear we're down the bottom, so I'm just going to keep tilting the bucket until I get all the juice. Now I'm going to lift it up and pull out the tubing. And you can see that if we had put that other wine into this carboy, that other bottle of wine, we could have an issue. Another thing to be careful at this point, turn the spigot off. I have been known to leave the spigot on and make a mess. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick this bottle up. We're going to put an airlock with a stopper in that bottle. And then we're going to take our other airlock and put it in the carboy. We're going to fill them with liquid. Put our red caps on the top of these, and we're going to set these aside for 6 to 12 days to let the fermentation finish.